I had a question from one of the teams saying you're credited with orchestration for Malmsteen's Concerto suite. So you're credited for that. Can you talk about working with that artist? And
Sure.
It's a pretty, probably absolutely technically genius, right? Talented artist.
Yeah,
right?
brilliant guitar player, and great ideas. It was kind of unique. He had the idea to do this concerto.
Yeah.
I had played on his Inspiration album, and I was doing a couple of tracks on that, and he kind of told me that he had this idea about doing a concerto. Now, Yngwie doesn't read or write music, so you know, he needed to bring in someone like myself to help him bring it to fruition. And he had a whole bunch of ideas or these themes and some demos and stuff like that of what he wanted it to be, and so I came in and transcribed everything and you know, built it out for full orchestra, which was a very cool experience.
When you're working with orchestration, you're working with those musicians, it seems like it'd be a really, from my point of view anyway, and I'm not a musician, but it seems like that's a different group of people. And you're handing them charts, and what is all the preparation, and what do you have to do with that?
Sure.
And do they relate, or do they think, oh, here's some rock and roll person that can't write, or what? I mean, I know what the answer probably is. They're very professional, and they know all about who you are, but
well, sometimes and sometimes not.
What's it like working with them?
Those types of musicians are very different than the types of musicians that are in the rock and roll world, which is more feel-based. Most of us play by ear. I'm fortunate to have been educated to be able to work either way, but most musicians work one way or the other. And in the classical world, in the orchestra world, people read what's on the page, and if it's not on the page, you're not going to hear it, for better or for worse. Right. So my job as the orchestrator is to make sure that everything is notated down to the minute detail. You want a crescendo here, you want this louder, you want this soft, you want this staccato, you want this legato. It's all got to be in the music, because if it's not on the page, you're not going to get it. It's that simple. So these people are trained to do that, and they can sight read like anything, which is amazing. So you know, now I was the guy who bridged the gap between those two worlds. Yngwie being a guy brilliantly talented but doesn't read or write music, and these people are not going to be able to jam with him.
Right. Yeah.
So what I had to do is, as I mentioned, transcribe everything, and then I had to, in order for Yngwie to say, yeah, I like what you did, I needed to record it, because the score, looking at the score means nothing to him. So I actually had to create, I called it the Rosenthal Philharmonic, and I took all of these, at that time, Kurzweil modules, and I had to actually play every single part and record the whole thing, and then that way I would go back to him, and then he would play over it and say, yeah, I like this feels good, or I want this to be different, and you know, and we would go through the process that way.
So it's a long, it sounds like could get pretty heavy.
I worked on that full-time for 9 months.
Wow.
It was the score was 305 pages, and it was a full orchestra with choir.
And so when you're hearing them and you're like, oh, that's not the way I wanted to hear it, and then you're like, when you're actually there recording, are you like, could you do this a little different?
Yeah, well, there's still a few more variables. They also follow a conductor. Now, the conductor has to interpret the way we were looking for. So if it doesn't come out the way I expected it to, it's either because I didn't notate it properly, or the conductor didn't do it, or they made a mistake. It's got to be one of those three. So fortunately, I proofread it to death, so there weren't any mistakes in it. And a couple of places, it was just a question of, well, let's just try this a little bit faster here, a little slower. You know, we want this to be a little more intense. But most of those markings are actually in the music, in Italian as it's done.
Now, these are all probably union players, right?
Well, we did it in Prague. We used the Czech Philharmonic in Prague, and because it's a lot cheaper to record there.
Cool. Yeah. So, but if you were to do stuff here in this country, you'd be a little conscious about that you were, you know, as a project maybe that you're spending money on and you'd like to get things right. And
well, yeah, I was conscious. To me, it doesn't matter. Even there, yeah, because here's guys walking in. My hair was down to here at the time, and you know, I made sure that everything in the music was enharmonically correct. I proofread it to death. I wanted these guys to feel comfortable in their world and respect the work that was done.
Yeah.
And so I really, really went out of my way to make sure that everything was just so in the score.
So how do you just show up and you do that? I mean, you must have previous experience doing something with that orchestration.
Well, I studied it in school,
yeah.
and I did some with Rainbow. I had a chance to do some orchestration, and then I did the thing
so
with
Yngwie.
Learn by doing
steps,
it. Yeah, but yeah, I did study it, even though I didn't really take that as a career path until recently. I'm doing more and more of that, but I did learn the skill.
But the fact that you did that, you had that tool. Mm-hmm. Whether it had to be developed a little bit more or not, you had the fundamental basics, so that's what led you through it, that you got, you know.
Sure, and that came out, one of the reasons why I initially studied orchestration, besides the fact that I really enjoy it, is because it's a big part of what I do as a keyboard player too. When I'm playing a string pad, I'm not playing it like a piano. I'm thinking the linear lines, well, the violins would be doing this and the cellos would be doing that, and I'm creating it, thinking with that head, so it comes out sounding a lot more authentic and not just somebody's playing piano on a string patch.